Daf Kuf Yud Aleph Amud Aleph, second to last line. Mani Matatin, who is our Mishnah according to regarding the retention of wages, holding back wages? Not the Tanakama of the Braita regarding the pasuk of Me'achecha. Well, Rabbi Yosef Rabbi also in that Braita. What's that Braita, Mahi? The time the Braita says Me'achecha, you cannot hold back the wages of your brother. Pirat la'aharim, that refers excluding others, yani goyim. Ger from a convert, zer ger tzedek is referring to a regular convert. It's asur to hold it back from a regular convert. Bisharecha, in your gates, zer ochel nevilot is referring to a ger toshav, a goy who keeps Shem Zernoach, that you also can't hold it back from them. That only teaches me for people. I mean, I don't know that to include animals and items. So this is in your land. Anything that's used in your land for rentals. When everybody is aware and all the isurim that apply to the Jew apply to everybody. מכאן אמרו דבר זה, אחד שכר אדם what you hired a man, אחד שכר במה what you hired an animal, rented an animal, אחד שכר כלים, rented an item. יש בו משום ביומות, שכרו, there's isur of not paying the hire immediately, ויש בו משום באפלים בעל תלחיר, holding the wages overnight. Rabbi Dalmi disagrees and says, גר תושב יש בו משום ביומות, שכרו, a ger toshav, the goy who keeps Shem Zainoach, is, you are aware by holding his wages against the pasuk of Beyoma. The enbo mishum but you're not aware of the pasuk of keeping it overnight. Animals and utensils. And you're only aware on the pasuk of not retaining wages. So, back to what we originally said. Who's our Mishnah according to? It doesn't show either. Why? If it's the first part of the Braita by the Tanakama, Kasha Ger Toshav. Our Mishnah doesn't fit because of the Ger Toshav. Our Mishnah said that the holding back wages did not apply to Ger Toshav, and Tanakama holds it does. It be Yosef, as a contrary Yosef, Kasha Behema Veshlim, he holds that by animals and utensils and items, that there is no Isur, and our Mishnah says there is an Isur. Who is our Mishnah of the following Tanab? Tanab Rabbi Shmuel, Mara'ichat Schar Adam V'chat Schar B'ma V'chat Schar Kelim Yesh Bo Mishum B'yamot Ten Scharo Ra'o Chayav U'Mishum Lo Talin Ger Toshav Yesh Bo Mishum B'yamot Ten Scharo V'en Bo Mishum Lo Talin. It's exactly copy paste from our Mishnah, and therefore our Mishnah goes with Rabbi Shmuel. My Tanab Tanakama Me'achecha. What's the reason that Tanakama holds that the word Me'achecha from your brothers teaches you everybody? Where it says Ger Gamar Sachir Sachir, Tanakama learns Exer Shava from the word of Sachir, employee, found in two separate workers, two separate pisukim discussing a day worker and night worker, and therefore all halachot apply to both. Gemara says, Rabbi Yosef Sachir Sachir. Yosef disagrees with him because he doesn't hold that Gzera Shava. Therefore, it doesn't apply. Gemara says, okay, if you didn't learn Gzera Shava, it's one thing. But how come he doesn't agree that with Tanakama's learning that the pasuk of biyamot tinscharo should also apply to an animal, an item? How come he disagrees? The pasuk says, he's poor. That's why you shouldn't keep it. The people who you are asur to keep wages overnight are people versus things that don't have, that can't become poor, like items and animals. Gemara says, the Tanakh, what does he do? Hi, Kiani, who what does he do with that word of because he is poor? The Gemara says, that teaches you that the pasuk teaches you to prioritize paying the poor employee before the wealthy employee. Gemara says, he learns that concept from don't hold back the wages of the person who's poor or an evyon. Evyon means extremely poor, desperately poor. Gemara says, what is he? They need both pisukim of poor people to teach you. One, first of all, like we just said, poor person prioritizes over wealthy person. The also teaches you that a poor person gets priority before a desperately poor person, because desperate poor person will push harder for his wages, but a regular poor person won't. We need both rulings. I mentioned the desperately poor person, he's not embarrassed to ask. May think by wealthy person who's he's embarrassed to ask. Maybe a poor person should not go in front. Therefore, you have to mention both. So the poor person doesn't go in front. You only mention the wealthy person. يعني a poor person that goes to a poor wealthy person, because the wealthy guy doesn't need the money so much. Maybe a desperately poor person should go before a regular poor person because he needs it more. Maybe therefore the poor person should not go first. You do. So there's three levels: rich, poor, super poor. The middle guy goes always first. The honey did on armor Braita, Armishna, Manavshah. He says, but all of them make sense. If you hold the Gzer Shuva Sachir Sachir, I feel get Javnami, then even a Ger Toshav, the servant from the Goyim, should also be Chayav. Why is it Patur? Iloya the Sachir Sachir is not learn it, but he learned that animals and utensils. Yani, that Pasuk told us everything. So how does this Tana teach you half of the halachot? Beshani Hatam, and the Hakim over there regarding rentals is different. The word itecha teaches you kol anything that you hired or rented, including animals or kelim, you're chayav for holding back wages. Yachi, I feel good. How come the ger shab is excluded as opposed to included with the animals and utensils? Makra re'acha, so your friend. Re'acha v'lo ger shab, referring to a Jew and not a ger toshav, the shazam noah guy. Yeah, I feel the how come that's not including the animal and the klim according to that opinion? The Gemara says Itzecha mentions with you to teach you items to include it. The Gemara says so how come the pasuk that you learn in the pasuk teaches you eat with you includes animals and kelim, and ulhotzi ger toshav and excludes the ger toshav? Maybe it's the opposite. Maybe it includes the ger toshav and excludes the animal and kelim. Where it says mistavra, and so Rabbi Svansky pointed out that whenever the Gemara asks Maida Ita, which means why are you learning the pasuk to include A and exclude B, why don't you do the opposite? The Gemara will most of the time answer with the concept of mistavra. Logically, the reason why we learned A and not B, or vice versa, is because A, B, C. So now we're going to answer mistavra. Logically, it makes sense to include animals and kelim and exclude ger toshav because behema v'kelim have a little because it's considered part of your friend's money, property. But a person who's not considered re'acha, he's not considered a Jew, and therefore he's not included. The Tana in the Braita of the pasuk me'achecha, I'm re'acha ma'avid. What does he learn with that pasuk of re'acha? If he already knows that get toshas hayat. A Jew and not an Amaleki, which means a regular person who's completely non-Jewish. But we know that from your brother, you're already patur from a goy because it's your brother, excluding a non-613. It says had the mishra ushko. One pasuk teaches you you're allowed to hold back wages. But had the mishra gazlon, one permits technically rob him. Yeah, they are not chayav. You need both of them. Di ashbinei gazlon. We only mentioned robbery mishum lo tarachbe because the goy did not necessarily work for it. Maybe he got it as a gift or got it for free. Regarding wages, which he already worked, maybe you can't do it, therefore you're allowed to. That's why Pasuk teaches that. But you only mentioned that wages is mutar. Mission lo because he never got it. Because but maybe robbing something of his where he already owned it. Maybe it would be asur. Tzricha, both are mutar. I'm not giving up stock on that. Where does it do that pasuk? Our Mishnah use that pasuk to teach you that animals and kli mechayah. But he holds the patur. So ma'avli, what does do the pasuk? Libalek to the asi. Tamar Rabbi Asi. I feel lo schar elo b'tzor lo eshkol echad shanavim. He teaches you the following: that even if someone hires someone for practically barely any amount of time, minor job, so aver mishum kalim you can't hold back wages. But idach another time Mishnah words from me ve'elav hu noset amsho nafka. He learns that he risks his life. An employee risks his life, you can't stop him. Because why? And therefore you cannot he learns that pasuk for something else. Risking his life. Why did he go up high on a ladder to work? Or he held himself by a tree to collect fruits. He put himself at risk. Obviously for wages, and therefore you can't hold back his wages. Explanation. Whoever holds back wages of an employee, it's as if he's killing him. Right? Who's getting killed? Have a machloket. one holds that it's referring to the employer by holding back the Hashem's threatening his life. The other opinion holds that the victim is danger if he doesn't get paid. The first opinion holds that it's referring to the employer himself is in danger. The Pasuk says, "Al tigzal dal, al tigzol dal, ki dal hu, ve'al tadakir ani b'sha'ar." Don't hold back a poor person. The Pasuk next says, "Ki Hashem yarib livam ve'kabat kov'em nefesh." Hashem will fight their battle. So we see that maybe that the person who's causing the problem is in danger. See, the other opinion holds regarding an employee, that the person who's a victim, his life's getting in danger. How come, what does the other guy do with the pasuk? Is referring to the owner, so it sounds like the victim. But Allah that's referring to the current owner, not the robber. What does he do? Now the other opinion will hold that it's referring to the victim. How does he learn the other pasuk? Hashem will pay back. Obviously, it sounds like the employer, not the employee. How does he explain it? No, the pasuk is explaining itself. Why will Hashem punish the robber? Is because he killed the victim, and that's why he'd be chayav. Okay. Yeah, we had this almost exactly right at the end of Masechet Bava Kama. Sounds familiar. So now, our next Mishnah said, "Bizman shelo time chayav for the holding back wages is when the guy requested the wages, they didn't give it to him. But lo tavot, they didn't request it. Eno ve'elav yinachayav. Number done. You cannot hold back wages. Even maybe even if the guy doesn't request it. Is with you, which means with your will. You know he wants it and you didn't give it to him. Maybe you might think you're chayav if you don't have the money, even if you don't have the money. You have the cash and you're purposely holding it back. But it sounds like if you're bankrupt, you're not going to be chayav. Even be chayav if you technically handed it over to a storekeeper or money changer, like we mentioned in Mishnah. Has to be with you. Not if you directed it through a third party. And sure enough, here's bringing Mishnah now. If you directed it through a third party, question. Let's say you go over, you send the guy to the third party. Go to the store guy, he'll pay you. He goes, I don't have it. Can he go back? Can he go back to the original employer to get paid or not? You can't get paid back. You can go back and get paid there. How do I know? Mishnah says that you're not over on, there's no isur of holding back wages. He's not over in avira, but the employee can go back to the employer and get paid. The says, what does it mean that he's not over? He's not at all in the parasha. He's not at all in the ability to be over, which means the guy has no business going back to him to get the wages. But the question is, if a guy delaying payment for a contractual work, right? I paid him to fix my shirt. Over is that eligible to be over on holding back wages or not? Maybe you might be chayav because a guy who is a craftsman acquires the item's improvement. Right? So my shirt was worth $5. He added me a pocket. Now it's worth $7. He owns $2 worth of the shirt, and I have to buy him out. That's how one way of looking at it is. The first considered a loan, not wages. Or maybe he doesn't acquire it, rather it's wages. So here too, therefore it's wages, and therefore I will be chayav. That's the two sides. Where it says, he's over. But Brayta said in over, we know that he's not over. No, it's not a proof because that case is referring to where he sent him to a third party, and that's why it's patur, but generally he would be a chayav. Name said let's bring a proof. I know Lumanson gave his friend a shirt to his craftsman. The guy finished work and told him that I'm ready, it's ready for pickup. I feel like even from now until 10 days, you're not over on wages because he didn't get it yet. If he gave it to him in the middle of the day, when that sun sets, he's now chayav on the avera of holding back wages. Now, if you want to tell me that he acquired the $2 improvement and therefore he owns part of it, am I over? Why is he over? Seemingly a proof that a craftsman would be chayav on his work versus what we just said not. Is referring to a thick cloth that the guy is unraveling and weakening it, and therefore it's not technically an improvement. So what's he paying it? What's he giving it to the cloth for? He's obviously softening it. Therefore it's an improvement. Now we said, oh, the fact that he's softening it is not really an improvement. But then the Gemara says, what do you mean? If he paying the guy to improve it by softening it, that's considered an improvement. And therefore back to the same question. Why is he different than any other case? The Gemara says, is referring to he hired him to stamp on it. They make it wet and they crush it, the cloth, to make all the strings nice and meshed together. And therefore, ma'ata, every single stamping, he's have a certain coin. And therefore, that's not considered a contractual work. That's just considered a job that he's being paid for the for the current job, and that's why it'll be different than a regular hiring.